Let's take the working file My Kitchen with Baseline, which is our kitchen project with a baseline saved. And we'll have a look at formatting and making appear the current date and the status date and the project and the start date. Go to the project ribbon and then project information. We've already seen that we can control the start date. So we move the start date to the actual start date that our project is going to start on. What we can also change is the current date. So you don't have to leave the current date as today's date. You can move it. Now this is quite useful, not only obviously for training purposes, but quite useful for doing what if scenarios in your project, because you can change the current date to a point during the project and then check your tasks and your costs and go, well, we're over, we're behind. So I'm going to move my start date through to, let's say, Wednesday, the 21st of December. Actually, let's go for the week after. My project's only just started on the 19th. So I'm going to change the current date so the system will think that it is December the 28th. Now there is another date here, the status date. Now I can change that as well, actually set a value for it because it defaults to nothing. I'm going to set the status date to January the 3rd, 2017. And we'll see where the status date appears. Okay, in my Gantt chart then, today now appears as a green line. So that's the today line. You'll also notice that there's a line for the beginning of the project, that dotty one there, and a line for the end of the project, that dotty one there. But there isn't a line for the status date, which is during that first week of January. There's no marker here, so I don't know where the status date is, which is a date just to measure myself against. Firstly, I need to be able to add the status date line. And then secondly, I'd like to be able to customize my today line and my start and end of project lines. Well, I can do that. I just simply right click here on the Gantt chart side and choose grid lines. That gives me a dialog box which allows me to control any number of built-in lines within my Gantt chart. If I click cancel, I can access the same information by going to Gantt chart tools format, grid lines, and then grid lines, and I'm in exactly the same place. Obviously the right click was a lot quicker. So down here I need to choose the line that I would like to customize. Well, I'd like to customize the current date line, and I can change the type of the line to one of a few choices: a solid one, dashed, dotted, or dashed and dotted. Well, I think I'll go for a dotted line. I can also change the color of that line to one of the theme colors or a standard color, or even more colors if I have a specific color in mind that I'd like the line to be. Well, let's just go for a standard color. I'm going to make it purple. So that's the control I have over the today line. If I say OK, we see that it changes to dotted purple. So back in the grid lines, current date, I might just make it solid so I can see it a little better. Now the other lines I wanted to control were the start of project line. So that's there, project start is a grey dotty line. Well, let's make that solid as well. Sort of dark brown color, and then the finish, I'm going to change that into a solid line as well and make that a dark blue color. So when I click OK, I see my today line goes solid purple, which is great. Start of the project is that solid brown, end of the project is solid navy. And what I don't have is a line for the status date. So back into the grid lines, look down the list, and there's status date. The reason there is no line is because the type of line has not been chosen. So I then need to make a choice. Well, let's go for a solid line again because it stands out so much easier. And the color as orange. Okay. And if I move to the right part, there is the status date on my Gantt chart. So I can change current date, very important for running what if scenarios, very important for training purposes and experimenting. I can add a status date and then add the line of the status date to my project. So it's like a measurement point that we want to work to. And I can customize the end of project and the start of project line. Now there are other lines inside that grid lines box that you can customize. The actual bar rows, middle tier column, bottom tier column, sheet rows, sheet columns, title vertical, title horizontal, page breaks, and top tier column. So there's a few other bits in there you can customize, but the main things here that we've looked at are the date columns. So a bar for today, a bar for the status date, and a bar for the beginning and the end of the project dates. All changes can be undone at any stage by going back in and changing the type, the color, and then OK. Whatever settings you make for your bars, those are the color, and style that they will print when you print your Gantt chart, which we will do a little further along. And by print, I don't just mean onto paper. We're in the 21st century now. By print, I mean into PDF format as well.